All right, Run the North, week 9. We got Jason here talking Bears, me talking Vikings. Tough week for the Bears. I'll take the week we got for the Vikings, but let's dive right in. Kick it off with some hot takes. Jason, you got a couple?
Hot take, Jared Goff MVP if the season ended right now.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything else to talk about it. You can go in on how the coaching staff, play calling, best offensive line, but like to have this kind of like a career flip. I mean, we had like a similar conversation around Geno Smith last year too. He was a late bloomer. I mean, part of it's because he just sucked with the Jets, and that's not his fault per se, as we're seeing the talent come through now. Similar situation. I mean, like, he got drafted 1 overall, went to the Rams, new coach McVay, went to a Super Bowl with them, and he's like, yeah, this ain't my guy. And the amount of disrespect that went into that relationship, gets traded for Stafford, and now they're, contenders, and they look like they're going to be for a bit here. I mean, he threw for under 100 yards last week for 52 points. This week against the Packers, fucking sweet. So I'm going to go midseason MVP, Jared Goff. Uncontested.
I like it.
There's no one you're going to throw at me that I'm going to say, oh, well, maybe. No, Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'll throw my I like that hot take. I don't think you're wrong. I think if there was an MVP count right now, he's up there. I think here's the problem. He's not popular enough. He's a boring pocket white quarterback.
Not mobile.
I think people are going to say, oh, but Lamar, and I'll go, oh, but Derrick Henry. I like Derrick Henry. Like, if he's on pace to hit that 2,000 yard mark, having kind of a redemption season. I don't know. I like Derrick Henry. I don't know. It's just so hard with Jared Goff.
Sexier.
It's sexier, and the other thing is, like, Jared Goff, I feel like he just wins by default because he's like, okay, potential best team in the NFL, potential Super Bowl winner, check. Mm-hmm. Quarterback on that team, check. Like, that's just kind of how I feel like how MVP voting goes. It's like it just ends up being the quarterback on the best team in the NFL, which is Jared Goff. And he has played well. I think what's going to work against him is those games like he had last week where it's like they put up 52 points and he only had to throw the ball like 10 times for less than 100 yards. Like, he doesn't have the stats because the team is just so goddamn good.
True.
If anything, like, if I watched more Lions football, it's like, honestly, I want to give it to like their offensive line. If you could give the MVP to the Lions offensive line, that's who I want to give it to, because they're just they're playing football the way it's meant to be played. They just assert their will on the other team. They run it down your throat. You know the run's coming, and you still can't stop them. You know what? Yeah. If I'm being honest, like, I almost like Montgomery more for MVP. Like, the dude is just a beast. Dude is a beast. Like, he's so underrated. Okay, that's a really hot take. That's not even. That's so hot.
I love
it's
the
not
guy.
Even true.
Jameer Gibbs is way sexier than that.
He's sexier, but like Montgomery is just like I feel like the heart and soul and the engine of that team. Like, he's just yeah. But no,
I got a place for him in my heart being a Bears fan. I mean, that dude is always falling forward, always got his feet going. I mean, he is grit. I mean, you want to put that in the cheesy Campbell saying, he is grit.
Yeah. Okay, my hot take, I guess yours was really good. Mine's maybe not that hot of a take, but I'll say right here we're at the midpoint of the season, right? Week 9, and we're right back to where the NFC North is right where the preseason predictions had everyone, right? Detroit Lions, dominant team, running away with the division. Packers and Vikings, both a little frisky. Actually, I shouldn't say it's exact, because a lot of people were really high on the Bears. Maybe we're at the midpoint. We're right where I thought the NFC North was going to be.
Sure.
Which is Detroit Lions on top. Packers and Vikings, a little frisky. Bears, I think I said slow start for the Bears, and they pick up in the back half of the season. Granted, they have on paper a harder schedule. You never know. There's like, I feel like people discount.
I might change your mind later in the pod. I might change your mind.
I will say it doesn't look great for the Bears right now, but there's still hope. There's still hope that they get things figured out. But people just always just assume things are going to go the way they go. They're like the way they look like they're going to go based on this week. And then crazy shit happens. All the like things that people never expect happens all the time. Like the Vikings starting 5-0. No one saw that happening. Shit like that happens all the time. Teams catch fire for seemingly no reason all the time. it doesn't make any sense. It always makes me wonder what goes on behind the scenes when players are doing poorly or doing well all of a sudden. I'm always just wondering, like, did the guy just stop drinking or something? Is it like, has he just been like an alcoholic for the last 4 years and he just stopped drinking and maybe that's why he's playing super well? Or like, hey, maybe this guy just like said, screw it, I'm gonna start like taking performance enhancing drugs. You never know these things. Like what goes on behind closed doors where like all of a sudden some guy's popping off and you're just like, what happened? What changed? And we're never gonna know. But that stuff happens. So I guess my hot take, we're right where with the dust settling at the midseason, NFC North kind of ended up exactly more or less how I was expecting it to.
So your hot take is a humble brag. I was right. And
listen, I just didn't really have a good hot take this week. All right, I was just like,
fair enough. I love it.
Okay, let's do talk knee jerks here, Jason. I'm sure you got a couple.
I'm going to defer to you. I went first last time. I'm going to defer to you. I don't want to steal the thunder, but go ahead.
Oh, man, knee jerk. I don't even know how to work this into a knee jerk, but something about me, the hubris, and me flying too close to the sun with my boy Will Reichard. He's got the injured leg. I'm just like, this is going to doom us. Like, or even, okay, how about this? I'll give you a real-time knee jerk from the game when I was watching last night. When Will Reichard missed that first kick after, like, the fumble that went for a touchdown that no flag got called, even though, again, second week, Darnold just gets clocked in the head. And, like, it's like, I saw that live. I was like, that's got to be a blow to the head, right? That's got to be. That happens. We go down, and then he misses that kick. I'm like, we're losing this game. I was like, we're going, like, I've seen this, like, this is one of those games where nothing's going to go right for us. So that could have been my knee, that should have been my knee jerk. That was like a live knee jerk that ended up being wrong, which oftentimes knee jerks do. Yeah, that being said, maybe not a knee jerk reaction, but like, Vikings are pretenders. It was not a pretty win. I still have very little faith in this offense. I'm losing faith quickly in Sam Darnold. Maybe additional add-on knee jerk. Sam Darnold is just, wish.com version of Kirk Cousins.
I mean,
I'll dive into that a little more.
He's way more athletic, and his numbers are more efficient. I wouldn't say they're better, but they're more efficient.
I'll dive into it more when we talk Vikings, but maybe my knee-jerk reaction can just be Sam Darnold is the diet version of Kirk Cousins.
Diet version, the light version. That's funny. The ginger version.
Yeah.
All right. So mine's quick and easy. It's gonna be Bears focused, and mine is to quote the great Denny Green from the 2006 game, Bears Cardinals. We are who we thought we were. And I'm going to put that up as an asterisk and say you were absolutely right about Eberflus. Not that I was in love with him to start the season, but
if I'm going to humble brag about anything, it's going to be my Eberflus prediction because I saw this coming from the 100%, preseason.
100%. I mean, it's not just that it is hollow. It is that they lost the game last week on the Hail Mary. They basically lost the game this week on a Hail Mary. At right before halftime, they had a 53-yard run because they had the prevent defense. I mean, this is so utter trash. He is losing the locker room. It is not going well. And, I talked about it in the offseason. It's just like, well, okay, statistically, teams that are third year with a head coach, they've kind of hit their stride at that point. So I was giving it a chance there. Not so much that he was the guy, but that, just for consistency's sake, there's got to be something there. Well, that's a load of bullshit. And now that we've hit a little bit of adversity, we're missing a few offensive and defensive linemen, half our secondary's out, fine. We should be able to beat the Cardinals. They're feisty, but they're not overly talented. Their defense is worse than the league.
And they're ravaged by injuries too right now.
Absolutely. So we should be able to figure something out. I understand we played the Jags and Panthers, crushed them. We're on a 3-game win streak. We talked about don't get too excited, but I mean, there's momentum. Let's just keep building a little bit. For you to come back and completely flop,
something happened last week. They didn't come ready to play.
Well, they've even admitted, the Tyreek Stevenson thing was a distraction. He quit practice in the middle of the week because he found out he wasn't starting, which is
right after saying he's taking accountability for his actions. Then he's like,
right. Was the apology supposed to be enough? Like, is that it?
That's exactly. That's some childlike behavior. That's childlike behavior where you think your actions equal or your words equal actions.
Sorry, now it's all better. Like bullshit. This is, I mean, you learned the hard way. And it sounds like from what Caleb's comments were during the week too, is like, well, we didn't move on fast enough. So my knee-jerk reaction is exactly that. They are who we thought they were. To compound on that, I'm seriously thinking we might not win a divisional game.
So I bet you guys will be the only ones to beat the Lions.
Well, we do every year. I'm going to say that. We do find a way to do one. We almost beat them twice last year off of miracles. But yeah, so my knee-jerk is that. I mean, really, nothing else to say other than how deflating that was.
Yeah. Well, we got plenty to talk about with the game, so let's keep it moving. Crown them. Okay. I'll kick it back over to you to start us off with crown them.
Crown them. I'm going to crown average organizations trying to be better. And what I mean by that is I'm going to crown the Raiders and the Saints, not because they're good football teams. They've been perpetually bad, but because they fired their entire offensive staff, the Raiders, which was Luke Getsy, who was the Bears' problem the last 3 years, and we all know why. And then the Saints fired Dennis Allen after they were the hottest team in the league to start the league.
Yeah, what happened?
I mean, they're another team. You're going to say injuries, but I think their coordinator got found out. But a 7-game slide, it's more than that. So
yeah,
we'll see. I think they're like $60 million over the cap. So that team is perpetually.
They've been kicking that can since like Drew Brees retired. It's been like a decade of them kicking that can.
They've been kicking it about 3 years before his like last 3 seasons to keep the window open. And then you give Taysom Hill a 7-year, $140 million contract, and 5 of those years are just fake. And it's like, what are we doing, guys? So I'm going to crown the front offices for like, all right, this ain't working. After week 9, halfway through the season, the Bears will never fire that. They have not ever, and I don't think they have the balls to fire their coach midseason. But I'm not trying to overreact with this, but enough is a fucking enough. We've seen so much of the pattern in previous coaches. That's exactly why I wore my Brandon Marshall to harken back to the Mark Trestman days. I have a feeling it's going to get that dysfunctional over there. So tip the cap to the guys, at least know it's not working and it's not fixable. Start fresh.
Love it. My crown them will be, I mean, first of all, I'll preface this with like, we might have just had the greatest week of like single individual highlight plays I've ever seen between the Garrett Wilson catch where he looked like Jumpman. Like, I will say that was insane. I was like, that's got to be play of the year. Devonta Smith makes another insane grab. Even Jordan Addison, on a regular week, he makes arguably the best catch of the week. Not this week. And then to cap it off, I think my true crown has got to be Saquon Barkley with that backwards fucking hurdle.
The double juke backwards hurdle. People aren't doing that. That's not a thing.
That was the sickest thing I've ever seen. When was the last time you saw a running back do something like? I watched it a million times. I'm still impressed.
Honestly, it might have been him in college, to answer your question. That might have been the last time. That's crazy.
That was the coolest play I've ever seen. Like that, there was so much skill and style and just, I'm going to sound like a boomer for using this word, but just like swag in that. It's like, what the? That was just the coolest goddamn thing I've seen in like 2 days or 3 days after that Garrett Wilson catch. I was like, that's play of the year. And now 3 days later, I'm like, I think the Saquon Barkley play. Because, like, the backwards hurdle is one thing, but then the 2 jukes leading up to it, it's just like, whoo! We got treated.
He's out to hurt people. That's a bad man with some bad intentions.
We got treated to some great plays, so I'll give some crowns to Garrett Wilson, to Devonta Smith, and then the biggest crown to Saquon for just keeping football interesting, making running backs relevant again. We should talk about that a little bit. I think what will be a huge correction in the running back market, because you've seen a lot of running backs let go for salary reasons that are finding a ton of success on new teams. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. I'll throw Aaron
Jones.
Aaron Jones. I called him Aaron Jordan, but Aaron Jones doing great stuff on the Vikings. Interesting year for running backs for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that's going to be interesting to find, especially going into the offseason, because like on the flip side of that, guys that got paid just about that 10 to 12 range, Pollard doing nothing. Shit team doing nothing. Same thing with Austin Eckler. Good team. You'd think we're spreading the ball out, doing nothing. I'm finding that it's more of the downhill running backs, the running backs that aren't just the pass catching guys, which I didn't think would be dominating. The only exception to that right now is Kamara.
Mm,
So I mean, other than that, the guys that got paid, I'm lumping him in because he got an extension a couple weeks ago.
yeah.
But yeah, very fascinating. It's going to be interesting to break that down when we have time in the offseason just to see, if it's dollars to touches to production, like how efficient those guys actually are and what effect it does have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good point. Love that.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into the Bears. You got a lot to talk about. I only watched the highlights because I don't have Game Pass. I wasn't able to watch the game. I'll start off with one thing. A clip I saw that I was curious on. There was a play I'm sure you saw. I want to say it was towards the end of the game where DJ Moore kind of like checks out of the play early. Some people are saying maybe he was injured. It did seem a little strange though. What is your take on this play?
So because the game was shit, and that was a point in the game where they're fighting to come back and there's little hope, but you kind of see him wiggling around there, making some action.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he gets to the side, he being Caleb Williams, gets to the sideline, squares up, and like ready to go. I was like, oh, DJ's like, where did he go? He was right there, and you see what he was looking for. I was caught up in that too, and I was like, what the fuck are we doing? I saw it live, and I actually saw it like the first time. But then after the game, I was mad, but then I didn't think about it much. And then it got a lot of traction. After the game, I was like, oh, makes sense. He stepped out of bounds. Right. So for those who don't know the rule, you can't be the first person to touch it. And if Caleb throws the ball to him, it's a penalty and an incompletion, whether he catches it or not. So I think he probably knew that. And the reason I say this is I have supporting evidence of the earlier game. It was whoever the Patriots played. On that crazy run around that Drake May had, he ran around same style and then throws
Hunter
it across.
Henry, right?
Yeah, Hunter Henry comes out of the back. He was not thrown to back of the end zone, but he steps out and he goes like, "Don't throw it to me because I stepped out." One player is getting lauded for what professionalism and awareness, and this guy's a stud. That's why you pay the tight end the money. Blah blah blah. Well, the exact same thing happened, but the team is melting down. One team has no expectations, one has high expectations. So that's where my take, having a night to sleep on it and see some of that stuff, kind of comes to neutralize. To me, I didn't see a difference. But I definitely get why people are worked up about it.
Well, it was a body language to me because he steps out, he doesn't even look back. Like, step out and stay out, but like he doesn't turn around to see, like, because someone made a point that's like he can still block. Like he could have come in and blocked. He didn't really even see how the play netted out. Now maybe he thought Caleb got sacked and he's like, well, okay, drive over. Sure. It was a little bit weird. And then I think I'll ask you this too, maybe some controversy that he's still a Justin Fields guy. And is there a rift between DJ Moore and Caleb? He's also said some comments that have been a little questionable where he was saying something about how Caleb is like bossy or something like that. Yeah. He's like, not in a bad way, but at the same time, it's kind of like you feel a little friction between the two.
Fair enough. I could see where outside that's a thing. I mean, I watched that bossy press conference. It was all said in jest. So if like you read the transcript, it's brutal. But I mean, you could tell he was messing. But what's not to be missed is your point of that there's tension there. And I don't believe that tension is between players. I think it's really a disdain for
just like frustration
for he's not getting used because he's not getting stuff dialed up. And the stuff that is getting dialed up for him is 5 yards or shorter or screen routes, and then ultimately nothing because he wasn't used past the first 2 drives last game. And then he comes out and was asked on the morning radio this morning in Chicago, which he does every week after a game. He's asked, has Eberflus lost the locker room? Was the very simple and direct question from local media. And he goes, I'd like to say no.
Yeah, he says, I want to say no.
Yeah, what does that
mean? Yeah. I want to say no.
He tried to walk it back by explaining as whatever this and that, but it was all hollow. And it was like, okay. Now we've seen some body language stuff with him, and I think it was excused because he was on shit teams in Carolina. It was excused because the Bears were bad the last 2 years with him there, but he was producing. Now, is that just him, or is it also frustration? Hindsight's going to be 2020 when the year is all said and done. Keep an eye on it, but the dude just got paid highest contract in team history. He can't be that mad this quick, I don't think.
Yeah.
So maybe I would guess it's probably more of a usage thing over anything more than a personality issue. But you could see like even Keenan Allen, he got a couple balls. He didn't play very well. He was targeted the most,
I
and
think
he
he
dropped a
dropped
couple.
one, right? Yeah.
I had one come right off here. Shoot, glanced off, almost got picked. It's like, what are we doing? And it would have been a nice first down that we needed. But I mean, it just doesn't look like these guys are locked in, especially the veteran players that you rely on and count on, having like that self policing team, the leadership. It's all seems like hot air at the moment.
Yeah. Well, cool. Let me start you off on one more thing. Again, from an outsider's perspective, watching the highlights, I feel like the main takeaway I saw was just that I was especially aware of this because in fantasy, I really needed Kyler and Marvin Harrison to have a really good game to give me a chance, and obviously that didn't happen. Looks like they were just running roughshod over you, running backs. I mean, DeMarcado has a huge run. James Conner's killing you. Trey Benson has a few long plays. Accurate to say that just the run defense was kind of the glaring weakness from the Bears this week?
Not just run defense, it was all defense. They just looked demoralized. Like coming in, there was nothing, no explosion off the ball. We lost our best run stuffer, Billings. I think he tore his pec. We'll find out, but that's going to be brutal. We didn't have Montez Sweat in this game, which is a big deal, but nothing I'm writing the game off of. And we're also missing Kyler Gordon and our safety Jaquan Brisker. Now, big deal for our team.
Big name players that you're missing.
But it's not like they're fucking all pros either. Is my point. And they played just fine against shit teams, and this is only a minor step up. So essentially, we're better than the Jags and the Panthers, but we're not as good as the Commanders and the Cardinals. So we're kind of like in that 6-7 win range right now of how you expect the season. It's like, well, we called it. It's just really frustrating to see the way that it's going with the actual emotional ebbs and flows of being in it.
Yeah.
Right. But it was just, it's not that they lost. It's the way they lost. It's, if you have a team that is, the culture's so good, these guys love each other, they're here, all this stuff, they're together, they rally. A team like that you just described would rally after a demoralizing win or loss on a last second tip where they were losing the whole game, should not have won, come back, convincing 2 drives, go ahead in the last few seconds, and then lose again. Like that popped the balloon, and you should be able to recover from that to draw some strengths. No, you just lost 2 games in a row in the same fashion.
Yeah.
That is not a team together.
There's something to be said about how teams respond to a loss like you guys had last week. It's like they either come out, they're like, hey, we know we're better than this. Let's show everyone. But that's not what the Chicago Bears showed. They showed, goddamn, this team is fucked up. Like, what are we doing? What are we playing for? They kind of just like seemed like they had this mental state of, God, we suck. Like this sucks. I'm not having fun.
Thrashed, dude. Absolutely thrashed. In every part of the game. I mean, so Arizona Cardinals were the worst in pass rush, and they were like 30th in rush. They gave up 6 sacks, and he was pressured on 49% of his dropbacks.
Crazy.
That's shit. Yeah, okay. So we're missing a couple of linemen too. But aside from a right tackle who's now hurt, we don't have an offensive line anymore. Just the amount of injuries they've sustained in the last 2 weeks. Don't care. Like I texted my family, my brother and dad. It was like, yo, offensive line's out. Expect a lot of screens. They didn't even do that. To be honest with you, they didn't do anything to work around a bad offensive line. It was so simple for those who know football well enough. They were getting destroyed on the defensive side of the ball. The Bears were on simple trap game or just a single or double pulling guard. First off, if your defensive line is good, you will never see 2 pulling people because your offensive line shouldn't be able to handle that. The fact that they're having 2 pullers constantly and able to trap up the middle and you're just gashing for 8 yards of carry is nuts. And that's without the 43-yard run. That's crazy. Or 53-yard run at the end of the half. So that was just more or less just gutless in my opinion. Forget the scheme. That was gutless.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to get the scheme real quick. Bad. And then everybody came out and defended it. Flus was asked this week if they're going to change play callers or not. They said, no, the problems are internal. Not that we got out schemed. It's just whatever. We got to find the sauce inside. So Waldron's staying. I'm sure it's because they overpaid him like crazy. But when you go through a game, and I've talked this many times with you here, at least the last couple of weeks, there are 2 keys to winning a football game in the pass game. It is get your tight end involved early and often. Attack the middle of the field. We did none of those things. We had 2 consecutive middle of the field throws on the last drive before half, and we marched the ball 40 yards, not with ease. Cole Kmet did not get a single target.
That's what I thought. I didn't see anything from him in the highlight reel. I was like, did he get a single target? It didn't seem like he got a catch. But
so you give DJ Moore $28 some million a year for the next 4 or 5 years. You give Kmet, making him a top 10 paid tight end, so it's 15, 16, 17 million, whatever the number is. Those guys weren't even a part of the game plan. I can go that far to say they were not a part of the game plan. And if you're going to tell me they were and they just took them away, that's bullshit, because that defense sucked. They have one player you can name, and that's Budda Baker. I watched the whole game. I could only name 3 guys, and one of them I don't even remember his name anymore.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like you put a 12-year-old on Madden against an all Madden team, and like there wasn't a rhyme or reason to the play calling. They couldn't adjust to what the defense is throwing at them. Admittedly, like you said, not a good defense. A defense full of people that no one knows the names of. It was rough.
So a couple of fun things that I found on the Twitterverse, I'm assuming are true. So if they're not, don't blame me. Just repeating this. So that 53-yard touchdown run just before the half was the longest rushing touchdown in the last 20 seconds of the first half since the merger, which is in the 70s.
That's just wild. Really?
Fuck me. Prevent defense prevents you from winning. We lost last week because, again, the play that didn't matter, those 13 yards, we lost. Okay? Right here. Prevent defense. Lost. Here's another fun one. It was against Seattle in the snow. December 26th, 2021. That's 3 years ago. 1, 2, 3. Was the last time the Bears won a road game on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's wild.
Can we think about that? That's
what's going on road games.
Ago. Well, okay, and so Eberflus was challenged on that, and he's like, "Well, we won in London." I was like, "That's technically a home game." All right, I see what you're trying to do there. Okay, fair enough. That's probably harder.
That's not the defense you want. Okay. So you're 1-29. Is that much better?
Oh, dude.
Here's a thought I had about Eberflus. He strikes me as the kind of guy that got into the position that he is in. Not because he's talented, but because he has benefited from other people's good work and knows how to play organizational politics. That's what it strikes me as. He strikes me as a guy that knows how to be political in a business. Probably knows how to schmooze or look good in front of the GMs, in front of the owners. And he's probably had good coordinators underneath him. Maybe he's hired well. Maybe he's gotten lucky. Because it sure doesn't seem like he's got command of the team right now. And he doesn't seem like a guy that, again, got to where he is because he's a good head coach. He seems like he got to where he is because he's, quote unquote, a good manager. And I'm a little biased because I feel like I'm just projecting what I see in my personal life and my organization. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people that aren't that good. They're just political. He strikes me as one of those guys.
So I know you're not doing this on purpose, but you're playing some pretty dirty fucking pool right now with that statement. Because it's absolutely true. And I know you don't know the Bears all that well, but I do. And so to hear that, it's just like, yeah, no fucking shit. Because ever since Ditka, we've always had all these fucking choir boys. And this is an organizational failure from the McCaskies on down, our owners. They're more concerned about the politics and the optics, the business, and who's can sit next to Virginia at church. That's literally been the longstanding thing that every fan knows. They'd rather hire the choir boys. I've talked to you as a coach and as players on your team. You need some crazy motherfuckers to win football games, let alone titles. And guess what? Ditka, crazy motherfucker. 9 out of the 11 starters on defense, crazy motherfucker. Christ's sakes, their quarterback, Jim McMahon, was a crazy motherfucker. Okay? They just don't want to deal with that anymore. And so they're okay with just taking our hard-earned money and shitting on us, going, oh, well, we Bears, man. So that's absolutely fucking true, because we had that with Trestman. We had that with Lovey. Lovey was the outlier. We fired him after a 10-6 season. Kind of crazy looking back on that. Eberflus is exactly that. Put on the smile. So I mean, that's exactly. And now if we're seeing like opposing teams, you Vikings in the division, seeing that, and then the narrative starting to come out as that too around the league, that's fucking embarrassing. And they just aren't going to do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, talking about the Vikings and, head coaches Kevin O'Connell, he could almost fall in that category of choir boy. Like, he knows how to say the right things. He's no Dan Campbell, who's a little unhinged, but look at the performance that Dan Campbell's team has had. But that being said, who we passed up on to hire Kevin O'Connell, which was a very, I'd say, controversial opinion at the time. You know who I'm talking about?
Refresh me. I'm so caught up in my own toils.
It was, God, now I'm blanking on his name, but the head coach of the Chargers. Is it
Harbaugh?
Harbaugh. Yeah, Harbaugh was
kicked around 2 years ago.
He was interviewed. Everyone thought we were going to hire him from Michigan.
I remember this now.
And then we ended up going with Kevin O'Connell, and everyone's like, "What the hell? Why are we passing up on this proven winner? He's got titles to his name, and who the hell is Kevin O'Connell?" And hesitantly, I say that it was the right decision. We've had success under Kevin O'Connell. The players like playing for him. But yeah, I think he at least has the talent to back up this hire, where he wasn't hired because he can do coach speak and PR speak, even though he is pretty good at that. He's just the most gosh darn up.
That with X number of quarterbacks, especially through injury.
My God,
first 3 seasons. So I mean, there's proof in the pudding, and it doesn't sound. I mean, we know the Wolves are just content going 500. Like we know that about them too. I don't find that sucks.
So the Wolves.
Isn't that the Wolves? Isn't that
Timberwolves?
The owners? The ownership?
No, the Wilfs.
The
Wilfs.
Excuse me.
Wilfs. I was like, are we talking NBA now?
Oh, but no. We could talk about that later. But yeah, no, sorry. The Wilfs. We've talked about that too. And it's a brutal, to be stuck in mediocrity is one of the most brutal purgatories to be in. And it's, yeah.
Yeah.
But so, okay. I got another thought when you said politics popped up here for the Bears real quick. And I got 2 more points I want to make. The last 2 weeks, so that's after the Tyreek Stevenson and the loss to the Commanders on the tipped Hail Mary, which again, and the blown coaching shit throughout the entire thing. You had timeouts to burn. You could, all these things, the 13 yards. And then this week, every week, the Bears press conferences are streamed live so fans can watch it. The last 2 weeks, they have not. Not only that, here's another one. Every week, if it's a normal Sunday game, the press conference is at noon on Monday. This is an away game in Arizona, and they moved it from noon to 10 a.m. So what I've even heard on other podcasts is that, well, I couldn't make it as a journalist because I was in the air. They moved it up without telling us, and I couldn't even attend.
Wow.
So you want to talk about the shady politics that are going on there? That's not nothing that happens in the media room is by accident.
It's more strategy than they put into their fucking game plan.
That's fucking A. So I'm going to leave you with this. I've got 3-word recap for this game. I've got a PG version and a not PG version. The not PG version is obviously fuck this shit. Just play. It's not going to get any better. They're going to somehow win a couple of games at the end there that they shouldn't, probably because our competitors are sitting guys. And then the conversation could be, oh, well, maybe we keep them. Blah, blah, blah. No. The whole, all of Chicago media, the national media are on the same page. This guy's seat is a volcano. It is not hot. Yep. It is explosive. But the PG one I'm going to give you, and I hope this one sticks. I'm taking liberties with the 3-word recap here. Fraud.
I hear you.
That's all I got to say about that. Let's talk. We're playing New England next week at home. So this will be the get right game and blah, blah, blah. But I tell you, if you come prepared like you did to this game, you're losing that game. Mm-hmm. That's pathetic. So that's all I got to say about them Bears. Let's talk the Sunday night game. It was Vikings at the Colts. Vikings pull out a win. I'm just going to let you go for a minute. I got some questions that I think would be better fitting intertwining throughout the conversation as opposed to lead you off. So where were you beginning of the game, end of the game? Kind of what are you feeling throughout watching? Were you fearing Flacco? Like what was the game feeling?
Absolutely, I was fearing Flacco. The Vikings have a terrible history against backup quarterbacks. Terrible. I still remember this is probably 2 or 3. This must have been maybe 4 years ago because I think Zimmer was the coach. I still remember Cooper Rush killing us on the Cowboys. He came in, we're like, this should be, we had a good team. He came in, just diced us up. We've had so many times in recent memory where backup quarterbacks come in. Either they come in halfway through the game or they come in at the start of the game. Because the starter was injured last game, and they just torch us. So right off the bat, I'm like, this is bad. I'd rather play Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, veteran quarterback. We just got, I wouldn't say torched, but like outplayed by a couple veteran quarterbacks. Matt Stafford wasn't fooled by the Brian Flores defense. Who do we play before Matt Stafford?
The
who was that one? No, but it was
the Jets.
No, it was 2 losses because we beat the Jets. It was anyway.
So you played the Lions before that, which was Goff. You had your bye week 6.
Veteran enough.
Jets 5. Yeah.
So I was very worried through the first half. Again, I told you when Riker missed that kick, I was like, we're losing this game. This is a game. Trap game. We're supposed to win it. I texted my friends. I was like, we're losing this game for sure. I picked the Colts to win in my pick'em league because I'm like, I've seen this before. This is one of those, like, I'm in a 50 person pick'em league. I'm like, this is one of those I'm going to go against the grain because I know the Vikings too well.
Fair enough.
We pulled it out. Like you said, we pulled out a victory against the Colts. That's exactly how I would describe it. Defense showed up again. Once again, I did not see what I wanted to see from the offense. Vikings, at least, in contrast to the Bears, we're discovering our identity. Apparently, we're a defensive team. Even though Kevin O'Connell is kind of heralded as one of these great offensive minds, once again, the offense is bringing a lot of concerns.
You put up 400 yards of offense.
That's
Darnold
true.
had a quiet 290 and 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, but I mean, you still put up over 400 yards of offense.
Dude, the stat sheet always looks good with Darnold, but it's like, again, he's like Diet Kirk Cousins. He can fill up a stat sheet, but I think he's worse than Kirk though. Like the first maybe it was the second interception. The one he threw to Jefferson in the end zone was just an ugly pick.
He's
Jordan
good for
Addison,
one of those a game though. It seems
like it. And again, offense was just absolutely anemic in the first half. We went into the half with, I think, 0 points. I'm pretty sure. Maybe we had 3, but we looked ugly outside of like Aaron Jones being a spark. Thank God we picked him up. He looks good. I honestly don't even know how he pulled it off. Like we won, but it wasn't a moral victory at all.
You guys were down 7-rip at half because of the Kenny Moore fumble return.
Yeah.
And then your first touchdown was the one to Addison and then to Naylor pretty quick in the third. Those were not far apart at all.
Yeah. So I will say it's the win. They're the type of wins we've been getting all season where the defense really kind of wins us the game. They allow, gosh, what was the final score? Like they allowed like 3 points or 6. Yeah. So I think they allowed 6 points because 7 of those points came from the offense. The offense gave up more points than the effing defense. So, here's another trend, a macro trend I'm seeing, which is why is it that the more quarterbacks play within Kevin O'Connell's system, the worse they get? Like, you look back to Josh Dobbs, his best game was the one he came in and didn't know anything, and he played great. And then the next game, he's got another week. He's played a little worse. Then week 3, he's a certified dumpster fire. Week 4, somehow even worse than a dumpster fire. It's like,
at that point too, cerebrally, he's literally a rocket scientist. If you remember that from the story.
Yes. And it kind of seems like the same thing is happening with Darnold, where it's like as the season goes on, he seems to be getting worse. And if I'm reading into that, I'm starting to wonder, like, is Kevin O'Connell just like putting too much into their head? It seems like, again, Darnold was processing things faster at the beginning of the season, and maybe O'Connell's coaching style is like, let's get him to do the basics right. Okay, he's got the basics. Now let's try more advanced stuff. And it's like when he tries, it's almost like when, again, it's like he's trying to get him to do more advanced things, but it's just making him worse as a quarterback. Right. A big contrast I noticed because I watched a good portion of the Falcons game in the noon slot. It was Falcons and
it was Falcon and Cowboys, and that was hilarious because that was Cousins versus Zimmer, the DC.
Yeah. I picked the Cowboys in that one because I thought Zimmer would get after Cousins. Like he would know Cousins' weakness. He kind of hated Cousins. Cousins got the better of him there, but Cousins' process so quickly. And the announcers made this comment, and this is something I want to ask you about. The commenter said Cousins is one of the few quarterbacks in this league that are actually asked to make like full field reads, full field progressions. Let me ask you this: what other quarterbacks do you think in the league are making full field reads, full field progressions? Like probably what you saw the majority of the time, like 15 years ago, back when we had, all these classic quarterbacks: Brady, Manning, Rodgers, Brees, Roethlisberger, all these like really classic quarterbacks in their prime. I feel like that's just how the game was played. And we've talked about this before. It seems like the game's been like quarterback position's been really simplified for younger quarterbacks. Some people are saying that even Darnold looks like he's a half field read. Like a lot of times it looks like he's only reading half the field. But let me ask you this: what other quarterbacks are making full field reads? Do you think Jared Goff falls in that category? Kind of seems like
so
it.
there's a lot there. I haven't watched enough Goff specifically for that. It could be. I know Caleb Williams is for sure, because I get to watch him every week. And that could be to his detriment, but it's a chance to get him some live reps and go. It's the more experienced veteran quarterbacks. Rodgers, you can see Flacco's doing it, and it's a completely different offense than what we see with Richardson. I know for a fact it wasn't Fields in Pittsburgh. It is Russell in Pittsburgh. It's really because to the counterpoint to that is the comment's been made that, and then listed of more than half a dozen, maybe closer to a dozen if I had to call it from memory, quarterbacks 25 or younger that were drafted high, started, and now getting benched. So Fields, Mac Jones, Richardson. Obviously, you go with the failure of the Jets, which was Zach Wilson.
Yep.
All these quarterbacks that have talent, but just can't. Trey Lance, they just can't pick it up, and that's pathetic in the sense that, okay, you're taking this prospect. It seems sexy. You need to make the business decision go fast, which always speaks to my point of a rookie quarterback should always sit a year. I don't care if you're
absolutely
number one. He should always sit. But there's just so much pressure, and these kids can't even handle the half field reads, which again, because the defense can stress and take that away. But it's not so. It's being labeled on social media as a quarterback development issue. And yeah, I mean, part of that's the plan to develop them. But it's if you can't do a half field read, I can't play you.
Well, it's taken a freaking college grad who just got his degree in finance and making him the CEO of your Fortune 500 company. It's like even if he's brilliant,
aren't even graduating. These kids are coming out at 20.
Right.
They're not even done with puberty yet. They haven't got a degree, and they've never been. It's like you and me playing against a high schooler right now. Yeah, I might be a little slower, but I'm bigger. I can knock the shit out of you, and I've definitely played more football than you.
Yeah.
But good luck, kid. The face of my franchise, and millions of people are rooting for you or against you.
Yeah, I think pressure. I think what we're seeing right now, I think this is going to be a really interesting season. This offseason is going to be interesting. Next season is going to be interesting because I think there's got to be a huge paradigm shift here where, again, we've had this huge kind of this class of really classic quarterbacks. They're all aging out. They're retiring. Some of them have been retired for a few years. Now we're getting all these new quarterbacks in. Like by necessity, we need a new crop of like elite quarterbacks, which we just frankly don't really have right now. We don't that younger crop has kind of failed to establish themselves to some degrees. We know there's talent there. You got guys like Herbert, you got guys like Burrow, but even them, they haven't seemed to put all the pieces together yet in the way that Peyton Manning, Rodgers, Brady had. And so I've made this point before. I think one trend you're going to see is I think running backs are set for a big comeback. Because I think one thing that really helps the rookie quarterback is having a good run game. Here's the other thing: if you're going to start your rookie quarterback, you gotta let him run more. Like you have to make him run more. That's something I've also noticed from Darnold. At least, I mean, maybe the stats don't back this up, but just from pure me watching the game, he's been using his legs less in these runs, or in our losses. He's not running as much, and that's what he was doing really, really well at. In that 5-game run to start the season where we won. It's something I want to see more out of him. And I think it's, again, if you're going to start a rookie quarterback, I think they just need to run more. I think they need to run more. They need to slide, get down, but like expecting them to, like in Caleb Williams, place, like try to make these full field reads that, a 10-year veteran could make, but a rookie's not going to be able to do them well. I think that's too true.
Yeah.
Go
that's
ahead.
The college system kind of screwing over, not preparing these kids for the pros. And what do these people care in college? I'm here to win here, and then we'll go with there, because these systems, the talent's so much different. The play schemes are so much different that a lot of the issues that rookie quarterbacks are having is that they're trying to make the big play because they're a rookie and want to make a name.
Yep.
But really, to the point of Darnold not running as much, what's proven to win, especially in the analytics, is if it's not there, check it down. 3 yards plus is better than an incompletion, and incompletion is better than a sack, but take it. And that's the thing that we're seeing now with Caleb Williams these last few weeks, where he's starting to struggle. Offensive line sucks, but in those moments, he's holding it for an extra second. It's not open. It's not open. Check it down. But because he's having that extra second here, the check down's now covered. It's only for a yard or 0, and he's just throwing it away. So now he's actually playing average, below average to average talent, not dumpster fire talent. And it's really getting to be apparent that way that these college kids are not set up for success in any way that they're taught to develop their football savvy and scheme, right?
Yeah.
It's a completely different language.
Yeah. And it's said a lot. The NFL is a copycat league. Who's doing it the best right now? The Lions. How did they do it? They built the goddamn trenches. They don't even have a rookie quarterback.
Yes.
Maybe they have the guy from Tennessee?
Which I think they drafted another guy this year. They brought in somebody else, but you're absolutely right. So to your point, I'm actually thinking about a little bit differently about the value of the running back. I'm taking that a step further. I'm going linemen, offense and defensive linemen have never been more valuable, because running backs have always been replaceable. Yes, we have the outliers. Like there's no one like Derrick Henry. Saquon's a stud. A couple of other guys we named at the top of the show here, but if you can't, no one plays offensive line anymore because it pays more to be the pass rusher. And anybody who's 6'6", you're training to be a pass rusher,
right?
Because you don't need to put in the grind, and there's no glory in being a tackle or a guard.
Absolutely not.
There is glory in getting a dozen sacks a year.
Yep.
And the money follows those things. So it's truly isolating those things. And again, you remember how many, it's a bummer that it's been outlawed now, but do you know what football drill has made the most basketball players? It's the Oklahoma drill. So so it's just everybody's getting softer and softer, and these linemen are showing that. So that's what I think. To your point, I'm going to take a step further. Say the value is in the line, especially offense.
Yeah, agree completely. We'll see. I think there'll be more emphasis on drafting linemen higher. Letting QB sit more or let them use their legs more. We'll see. There's still going to be organizations like the Panthers that think a rookie quarterback can fix their lack of talent at wide receiver, running back, line, defense. But winners are going to be going after that. Couple
shout outs to linemen real quick. 74 got 2 days of practice in or so. And
I don't even know his name yet. Cam Robinson, something like that.
Yep, something like that out of Jacksonville. And then shouts to Hawkinson coming back, 3 catches, 27 yards. But that's going to be a fun one to see.
Yeah. Couple more thoughts on the Vikings. So first, you asked about our first round pick last week, who hasn't been showing up too much. Turner.
Yes.
Looked pretty good. He got limited reps. I think he was on the field for like 24 snaps. Looked pretty good. Got like 4 QB hurries. Looked a little, and I think he got put in a position where it's like, forget about Brian Flores' complicated defense, where he shined, where they were just like, fourth quarter, they have to pass, like just go get the quarterback. That's when he looked great. That's why he looked really good on a few of those reps. So some hope there. And just a random question, not one specific to the Vikings, but one I meant to ask you because it just occurred to me. But the Vikings, they get or the offense, they get in a huddle, they call a play. It's like CY 23 trips, this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. What does defensive play calling look like? Because I'm assuming they don't like huddle up and say, all right, 4-3 break, or they're like cover 2 break. What do defensive play calls look like, particularly like maybe if you even had insight into this crazy Brian Flores defense? Like what do those play calls look like?
Yeah, I can't speak to what Flores is playing because like what we played in college and even in high school was way
simpler, I imagine.
dumbed down. Yeah, and it's something too. Like in college, we had so much better talent. We could just run base and we'd run right over you.
Well, let's even start at the beginning. Does the defense huddle up like the offense? Is that do they huddle?
Yeah, they don't get into a formal circle. We kind of just bunch around and linebackers, DBs. What's interesting is like the coverages aren't really called. Like you get a base coverage, meaning so you got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Your mans and zones. But if you're going to do an exotic coverage, that's when you'll get a call, meaning your cover 6, your roller, your robber, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get a base call, it comes out. But if someone, like formationally, if they come out in 3 wide, you're probably not going to stay in cover 2. If it's a spread out 3, if it's a bunch, you might. But if you're all wrong, you're all right, meaning the DBs are constantly changing and calling that out as needed. Just because it's so easy to exploit formationally on offense.
Yeah.
But for your example, it's kind of the idea is the same. It's not nearly as wordy, but you have your base formation, and then you call out from the line to the linebackers to the defensive backs in the order that you say something. So I'm going to say you have a base call, which is going to be 4-3, 3-4, nickel dime, whatever that is, whatever your word is for that personnel grouping. And if you're going to go a slant, which is usually to the left, or you're going to go something to the right. If you're going to go 2 gap, 1 gap, depending on what your scheme is, you're going to call that out. If you have any special twists.
And this is the guy with the green dot calling this out, right?
Correct, 100%. And that's the quarterback. That's usually the middle linebacker or one of your interchangeable linebackers. Then you're calling out your stunts, which is like nut. And they're really, really complicated. Like, so nut is the nose over the tackle. The Tom, or if you have multiple linebackers, your Sam and your Will, that's a saw. So it's real easy that way. And if I was going to go in college, if I was a strong safety, I was the rover, which is, any R, you got a rocket, you got a fire call, those types of things telling you who's going where. Because we have our basic.
Well, so what is this guy with the green dot saying then? Is he saying fucking 15, rover, fucking nut? So there is there kind of this multiple word,
Yeah. Basic call, it's going to be base, slant, depending on the formation, so the thing is, there's a lot more alignment that you don't have to say, because if I'm in a base slant, I know where I got to line up depending on where the offense are.
Okay.
So like the interior defensive lineman, I know that I got to be as the nose. If I'm in a 3 front, I got to be head up the center. And then my 5 tech's got to be head up the tackles. If I'm going to go on a slant, you're probably going to shade inside. But outside linebackers, depending if we're in a base formation, you're going to be 3x3 off in a certain way. You could be up on press. So those are things you don't need to call out. Like we're in on offensive play call, you absolutely need to call out every little spacing modifier and who's going in motion, what type of motion, how far of a motion, those types of things. So it's not nearly as intricate. So you go, all right, we're in our base 3-4. So you go base slant, which means because there's an L, it's going to the left. You're going to go saw blitz. So you're going to loop around that with your Sam and Will, and then, cover 3, ready break. And then you have the backers know both what's going on in front of them. So they know where their gap assignments are and in coverage. DBs are only worried about coverage and then edge contain. And then if they come out in something that's going to beat cover 3, we're going to ID that. We're going to call it out. We usually have code words like cloud. You look up at the sky, that's blue. Blue is cover 2. White, that's 3, because it's a W. You got 1, 2, 3. And black was always man. Royal was, your press the line. It's a bunch of things like that. So you have these built-in pre-packaged terminologies. Whereas if you have to do something on offense, it's way more intricate. You're calling out every movement by most every guy.
Sure. Love it. Cool. Let's keep things moving. We're getting close to an hour here. Around the NFC North, let's just talk about, we've already talked about the Bears and the Vikings enough. Packers-Lions game. I don't know how much needs to be said there. Love seeing the Lions beat up on the Packers. Always a good time. Jordan Love, I will say it does irritate me how much his mannerisms remind me of Aaron Rodgers, and how a little bit scared I am that he is going to be just like Aaron Rodgers, like how he's just hobbled, but he can still throw the ball. I'm like, God, Aaron Rodgers would do the same thing. He'd be all freaking injured, but he'd still play, and then he'd fucking snipe the lights out of you. Glad they lost.
He's got the Farvian pick propensity too, though. I do like that. He's not nearly as efficient as Rodgers was.
Yeah, hopefully he just pans out to be mediocre enough to keep getting re-signed, but never great enough to get him anywhere, and then they can be in QB purgatory.
Keep spending $50 million on him. I'm all about that.
Wide receivers, I think it's funny, like, the Packers have 5 like wide receiver 2s, in my opinion. Like,
you're gonna have to pay a couple of them too, which is gonna be the real interesting part, I think.
yeah. So I'm not like too scared of the Packers. Like, I still think the Vikings have a better roster. We'll see. Totally dependent on like Jordan Love's career trajectory, I think. Yeah, I don't have too much else to say. They're a little feisty. If I had to guess right now, I think they'll have a worse record than the Vikings by the end of the season. If nothing else, than the fact that Jordan Love looks a little banged up, and I don't think they can sustain wins with Malik Willis.
Yeah, I don't think they have the it this year.
Something seems to be missing. There's no way they make a deep playoff run again.
No, not at all. And if you follow Bussin' with the Boys on Instagram, they posted this great picture of a fan in the stands with the
cheese grater. Oh yeah, I love that. I think that's been around for a little while. That's fantastic.
Well, it works best with the Lions too, because it's that gray to contrast with the Honolulu blue, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what I mean. I don't have a lot to add. I mean, it was a convincing win. It was 24-14 final, but it really seems like Detroit had that in hand. There was even a clip, of LaFleur telling, "Shut the fuck up" to the Detroit sideline.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Someone was John. I was like, "Oh, are we getting to him?" That's kind of crazy.
And gosh, try and jog my memory. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's fine. I thought it was the Packer. No, you know what? I'm thinking of the Cowboys. It was the Cowboys Falcons, where the Cowboys tried to run this trick play. I think it was on 4th down, and it just failed miserably. It was just like, what? Like, who do you think you are, the Lions?
Right, you got to do something, I guess. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so a quick shout to that game. I didn't watch the whole thing, but we were at the bar for most of it. I did not see Dak get hurt, but that's the thing that's bugging me the most right now. Is okay, they suck, they're reeling, and they're not doing very well. But if I gotta watch fucking Cooper Rush on Thanksgiving, I'm gonna be pretty pissed.
Hey, he's all right. It's probably better than an injured Dak.
No, I don't think so. I'm not going to agree to
Listen,
that.
Like I said, I'm still scarred from the one time he absolutely shredded the Vikings, so I know he can get it done. But okay, enough of that. Fantasy, you said you didn't have much. I don't have too much going on. I have a couple storylines. Work league. I've been on a tear after being really bad. I've won like 3 straight. Snuck into 4th place, which is our fantasy playoffs has 4 spots. Okay. This week, my boss in the same spot. He's also, I think, like 4-4, 4-5, 5-4, whatever. Same record as me. I just have more points. He fucking just wrecked me. He absolutely just. I had a terrible feeling going into this week. He had like Josh Allen, Devon Achane, Chase Brown, Tank Dell, and those 4 I looked at. I'm like, I'm really set up for failure with these. Like Buffalo, Miami with Tua back, gonna be a high scoring game. Chase Brown, Zach Moss is out. He's going to have his best game of the week. Tank Dell, no Nico, no Stephon Diggs. He's going to have the best game of his year. And sure enough, they all just went exactly how I imagined it would be, where they all just dumped on me. And then on the flip side, I got like Kyler Murray, like CeeDee Lamb had a crap week. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think my highest scoring, I should look this up. My highest scoring player was fucking Ben Grupe, my goddamn kicker. But I got absolutely,
I don't even know that name.
Kicker for the Saints. Almost my highest scoring player. CeeDee Lamb outscored him by 0.2 points. But outside of that, I got absolutely just chunked up by my boss, which is unfortunate. Didn't have a lot of hope for that league, so the fact that I'm even vying for playoff contention is nice. Sure. My main league, paid league, looking good. I need Kareem Hunt to get me 4 points tonight for the win, and then that'll be like my 5th or 6th win in a row. I'm in 1st place in that league. That'll jettison me even farther, because the other guy that's got the same record as me, only other guy with the same record as me, is losing this week. I still hate it. I still hate it when like I just need one guy to get me 4 points. So I'm like, he's gonna break his leg on the first play or something ridiculous. I like just going into Monday. Plausible. I love going into the first or into Monday night just knowing I have the win in the bag. This feels very much not like I have the win in the bag.
Very icky.
ESPN says I have 95%. I'm like, it does not feel like I have 95% chance to win. I feel like it's a 50-50.
Well, I've got a lot riding on this game. I won the battle for first place last week, in the league I care the most about.
Nice.
I am up 7, but he's got DeAndre Hopkins to go. So it could or it could not. And
I
I
like
don't
my
like
chances
that.
with Kareem better than your chances, but I could also see,
Right?
I mean, the Titans aren't great. So,
Yeah. The other league I'm fighting to stay alive in, I've got Hopkins and Rashad White going, and he's got Travis Kelce. He's got me going into the night. He's up 12 points. So I need Hopkins and Rashad White to outscore Kelce by 12 points.
oh, dude, I forgot we have a double Monday night game tonight.
Do we? Oh, geez.
Yeah. Wait, no, maybe not.
No.
Yeah.
It's just
we
Kansas City, Tampa. So that's another thing. Well, if Hopkins is going to go off, I need him to go off enough to win my other league. Otherwise, it's a fucking wash, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, my team is in the dumpsters in this league, and Kelce, it's the guy boyfriend's girlfriend's league. I am beating Kelce by 0.06. So basically, I just need Mahomes to not break a leg and throw a pick on the first play, and I win.
Nice.
Which is stupid because she's best in the league, and if I don't win the league, she should, and I'm not even going to make the playoffs at this rate.
There you go.
So
maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
And I sat Gino, who had 22 points, which would have been a very convincing win in this league, but whatever. Yeah. So basically, my week, whether it's a good week or a bad week, hinges on Hopkins dominating or sucking. And if it's in the middle, I'll be probably upset.
Yeah. It reminds me of last year, family league. I'm playing my wife, Sally. Monday night, I'm up by literally half a point.
Sure.
And the person that she has that's active in this game, I have no one else active. They're on the goal line. She's got a running back. Again, she's down by 0.5 points. I go, I hope he snaps his leg on the next play.
No.
Next play, Nick Chubb snaps his leg.
Oh, you almost cost me that league last year.
I felt so terrible. I was like, I said it, but I didn't mean it. Like, I don't want... I felt terrible, but I did end up winning that week. She was like 0.5, literally 0.5 points away. He's on the goal line, and... I might have jinxed him. I don't know why the fantasy football gods listen to me in that one instance, but
when I see him next, I'm so gonna tell him.
Yeah, right.
That's wild. Yeah. All right, so Bears are at home versus New England week 10. Vikes are at Jacksonville. I'm assuming you're probably feeling pretty good. My thing is, I think Jacksonville's probably not done selling. The trade deadline is tomorrow midday, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised if they still have a couple more pieces. It seems like the Vikings could be adding more if they need to. I don't know if there's a lot of talk there, but for me, the Bears were talked about the last 3 weeks as buyers. We need offensive line help. We definitely need defensive line help. Blah, blah, blah.
It's
the way this game went,
not your year.
Yeah, you better be nothing but fucking selling if you're a Bears.
Well, even looking at it at the business perspective, they got some other questions they got to answer before they're figuring out trade things. Like, you only have so many resources in the front office. Those resources, They're not talking about trades. They're talking about, like, what are we doing about Eberflus? Fraud.
So I want to go on this one. I don't know if it's gonna be a hot take. I'm totally taking over the conversation, and I just
you're fine
for a second. So, all right, back to coaching on Eberflus. Eberflus is a dumpster fire right now. Got no trust in him, and it's all those things we talked about: politics, the McCaskey, going to church, bullshit, lost the locker room, everything about that. My initial thought is, with how Poles has somehow fixed the cap, improved the roster significantly going into his third year, and fleeced the Panthers in what could be one of the greatest trades of all time, if Caleb has a career, right? Yep. I believe that those things are enough to warrant him, even with the disaster of this year, to warrant him keeping his job after Flus gets fired, even though he pounded the table to keep Flus this year and get another coach. Fine. One thing that I'm upset that the national media is still not talking about, and I guess this goes back to the politics thing, is last year, the beginning of last year, I think it was week 2, Alan Williams is our defensive coordinator, former Vikings coach as well, so you know a little bit about him maybe, if you remember the name.
Wait, what's his name?
Alan Williams.
He was a Vikings coordinator?
Yeah, several years ago. Absolutely.
That's not ringing any bells.
Good. He was not good. Anyway, the head coach, so the GM hires the head coach hires the coaching staff with some influence of the GM, but the head coach is the guy putting his coaches together, right? So he hires Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator, And then he hires every other position. Offensive coordinator was Getsy. He kept him on, hired all the position coaches. The positions coach for the running backs was dismissed mid-season, like week 2, week 3, for conduct detrimental. Like he was just an asshole. It was all HR related stuff. So they kicked him out of the building. That's got to be an indictment on the coach. No question.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we talk about that enough? Okay. If that wasn't bad enough, the week before that, going into week 2, after we just had an embarrassing loss, Alan Williams, the defensive coordinator, was dismissed from the team. Reasons technically unknown, but it did come out that there was a federal investigation.
I was going to say, what was he? He was the one that got raided. Home. Yeah.
Yes. Why are we not talking about that? So you keep Getsy. Atrocious. You have 2 guys get fired from the team for HR reasons and literally the FBI. This guy can't pick out character. Then this year you get fleeced because he doesn't want to hire Kingsbury, who could be the potential replacement that would have been in the building with him for his job. That's we can't hire good stuff because I might lose my job, which you're going to do anyway. So you bring in Waldron. For all the good reasons of Geno and good statistical purposes, it sounded great. I wanted to buy in because I didn't want to be upset just because I told you so all year.
Right.
Trying to find a fandom in it. But now it's like I know too much about things in general. It's like you can't watch this. And now he hired a whole staff again. So everyone's going to get cleaned house. It sounds like they had to pony up a lot of money to get Waldron too. Well, there's no salary cap on coaches, thank God. But I just don't understand why we're not talking about that. Not only has he lost games that he's supposed to win by 90% plus several times last year, and now twice this year, and then he's losing the locker room, this whole culture thing. He has no accountability at the podium. I mean, someone who doesn't pay attention or care, sniffed it out immediately. You know, it's just, why is it so hard for teams in the building, like in that building, to figure that out? It's insane to me.
I don't know.
You're going to have the same cycle again that I've been bitching about. Cutler, 5 or 6 different coordinators in 7 years. Okay, then he's held on and retained, and then you draft Trubisky after him. Okay, then Mike Glennon was brought in. They drafted Trubisky with John Fox. Then they fired Fox, whatever his name is, and then you bring in Nagy. Trubisky is the holdover. Okay, then you go through Nagy's tenure, lame duck coach. Cut the quarterback 1 more year for the coach. Fields, Nagy, lame duck coach. Then you bring in this next. This is 4 quarterbacks in a row over this course of 15 years.
Right. Yeah,
we're doing it again
quarterbacks.
We are doing it in Caleb. Like, I feels like it's already written in stone that Flus has to be gone. Like, it's just
Hey, listen, maybe you can bring in what's his face from Arizona? No, Washington. Kingsbury? Maybe you can bring in Kingsbury next year.
Yeah, I called him out a couple years ago. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in John Tepper. Not to be confused with the owner of the Panthers. John Tepper.
That's who I'm confusing him with. Who's John Tepper?
The TV show Bar Rescue. Fucking go in there, start screaming and yelling, watch for a day, say you fucking suck, you own your shit or you're out of here, and just rework the entire Bears organization again, which we were supposed to do last year. We brought in Kevin Warren, but again, you did everything out of fucking order. You had the GM, and then you hired a president, and then you had kept the coach, and then drafted a quarterback, even though it's just like, what? It's not that hard. I'm a simpleton from the middle of nowhere, but I know how this all works. What are we talking about here? And rant before I have an aneurysm.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'll probably talk about it every week until he is fired, because what the fuck?
Yeah. Something tells me they might retain him for the rest of the year. Time will tell. Hey, if you lose to the Patriots, the loss, if they lose to the Patriots, that might be one of those where, like, you know, with the Saints, you lose to Bryce Young. That might be like the...
But you couldn't put Waldron, with how bad the offense is, you can't have Waldron replace him. Maybe you put the special teams coach, because what else has he got to do? The defense has been crumbling, and that's Flus's bread and butter. So who's going to coach the team the rest of the year? It's not anybody that's going to get a chance the next year. There's no interim that's going to be like, oh, maybe we retain him, like the Antonio Pierce thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, like I said at the top of the hour, NFL's random. Maybe you guys come out and you blow the Patriots out of the water and you kick that decision down the road a little bit.
Yeah, nice. Clip it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, let's end it there. Run the North, Week 9. Jason Will. We'll see you next week.
Bear down, baby.